You are listening to the Pleasant Spirit Podcast with your host, licensed massage therapist, Kyle Pleasant. Here, we will be discussing topics on health and wellness, as well as self-improvement, and his experiences as a legally blind massage therapist. And now, here's your host, Kyle.
And hello, and welcome to Pleasant Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Pleasant. So today I wanted to, address a comment that I had from a listener. And it was about what kind of advice would you give to someone in this day and age, 2020, as it will be called in the history books, the year 2020, I don't know. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's, definitely feeling the effects of the things that are going on this year? And I know we've, pretty much everybody on the planet has been touched by coronavirus and all the challenging repercussions that come from that, and it's happening, in every part of the globe, and it's affecting everybody in different ways. But not only that, but there's all kinds of other things that have been challenging society, with weather and protests and elections and all that sort of stuff. And I addressed that on a different podcast about, mainly about, taking everything into perspective. But another point of view would be something that if you wanted to know what God was doing, or how God or Spirit was modeling, that perspective, is to look at nature. When we look at nature, you have the animals and the distinct four seasons, that we have, and, you don't have the animals out there, worried about whether they're gonna be fed or they're going to, make it through the next day. They're animals, and whenever you look at that kind of thing, you wonder what's happening in nature, and we have four seasons, and everything. There's an ebb and a flow to nature, and things as a whole. They have good times and bad times, and we happen to be just going through some dark times right now. One example I want to use is because we live in Oregon, and we're only about 40 miles from Mount St. Helens, and this year they celebrated or recognized the 40th year anniversary of Mount St. Helens going off. And when it was happening, it affected everybody in this region, covering everything in dust and making the sky black. And it was, very disconcerting for a lot of people, especially those that lived even closer around the explosion. And people, lost their homes. And, you can think about the hurricanes that were going on this year. A lot of people lost their homes, and we had a lot of wildfires, and, there was a lot of loss. And when you think about, the loss, we don't often think about what will evolve from that loss. Because for every loss, there's the opportunity for, something to evolve even greater. And when we look back at, say, Mount St. Helens, if you look at the landscape around the area where the ash had covered and destroyed the forest, it comes back even greater and with even more flourished life, but only that life and that distinction could only come from some kind of tragedy, some kind of destruction, before we watch the landscape and the animals and, all that, come back even stronger and even livelier and thrive. Some of the greatest winters that we've had make way for an even stronger and more beautiful spring. And so, I take that perspective in that, we're going through some challenging times. And I've said before, it's about perspective. And it is my true belief that what we're experiencing now is an opportunity for something greater to grow, something even more wonderful to evolve society into something even greater. Because, we look at our history, and another example, just in history, is that, we went through World War II, and then we got the Great Deal, which now has, created an interstate system. And even the Industrial Revolution, that came through some challenging times before then, and it created a different era in our world. When I think about even me in my own personal life, I have mentioned that I'm legally blind, and and there's struggles, even, making this podcast. There's, I have to use the technology here and trying to navigate through, setting up the software and, being able to figure out how to, click this and move through that. But even with me, that you can look at a disability as something that's just going to weigh you down and be a burden on yourself and make your life even worse or even more of a challenge. But you can also look at it as an opportunity to be creative and to see things from a different perspective. There are things that I see and the things that I feel that somebody else may not. And I take that as a blessing, and I take that as, like a superpower in some way, that I'm seeing things and I'm experiencing things that no other human on the planet has. But you can say that about everybody. Everybody is going through something, a hardship or a struggle or a disability or anything, whatever language you want to put on it. Everybody's going through something. And every person has their own perspective and their own way of challenging themselves and a way of overcoming something. It allows us to be creative. With great tragedy comes, great art and music and writings and even the evolution of technology. There's autistic kids that use iPads that are, able to communicate that they wouldn't be able to without, the evolution of technology. And so I thank all those out there that have taken a situation, a challenging, disheartening situation, and have turned it into something that has inspired others, or that has created some kind of innovation in society that helps make the world a better place. And that's my main message here, is that nature evolves to make the world a better place, and society evolves to make the world a better place. And I used a quote before by Einstein that says, the most fundamental question that we have as humans is, do I live in a friendly or a hostile universe? All the rest is detail. Once you get into your mind that the universe is a friendly one, and the universe is working to evolve us, to create and evolve us, to make the world a better place for each and every one of ourselves, and that it's collaborating with us and not conspiring against us, then we are able to move forward and to look at the world and look at our situation with new eyes. And I hope that somebody out there is able to change their situation, create that law of attraction in their life, and not see 2020 as a a write-off, but as an opportunity to evolve not only their personal life, but, create a world that works for everyone, that we're all equal, and that we're all blessed in the eyes of God, or in the eyes of of spirit or the universe, and that it is giving us the opportunity to overcome these situations and to challenge the status quo, to challenge, what's happening in the world, and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that stop me from being who I'm meant to be, to show up the way that I'm meant to show up. I could be upset about, I'm the poor little blind kid that, is not able to drive a car, or to fly an airplane, or, even to walk across the street without making sure that I'm going to get run over, or whatever. Or, to read a normal book. But I choose to take the road that says, well, I can hike the Appalachian Trail. I can backpack across Europe. I can create my own podcast and my own massage practice. And to, remodel my home. All those kinds of things I can say that those resonate with who I am. Those kinds of circumstances align with my message, align with how I'm meant to show up in the universe. And for everything else, you just kind of have to go with the flow. There's a line from a song from an artist that I like, Daniel Nahmod. It says, if I stop steering my boat, will it sink? Oh no, current, carry it along just so. If I stop steering my life, it'll be alright. I'll just go where the ocean says to go. And so sometimes, if it's too hard, then stop, take a break. Allow current to carry your life where it's meant to go. But it all comes down to our perspective. It all comes down to, what are we going to allow? What kind of energy are we going to allow into our lives? Are we going to let it disable us, or allow it to move us forward? And so with that, I hope that something out there resonates with somebody, and I'll hope to see you on the next episode. Until then, have a pleasant day and be well.
Thank you for listening to the Pleasant Spirit Podcast. We hope you found today's show informative. Please take a moment to write a review. And if you want to reach out or have show ideas, you can email at podcast@pleasantspirit.com. You can also visit his website at pleasantspirit.com. If you are in the Portland, Oregon area, you can schedule a massage or one of his coaching services at pleasanttouchmassage.com. See you next time, and always be well.